Hi, I'm Anya, also known as Mepity, and today I'll be drawing my character Tom Bluejay in 10 different art styles. The styles I've picked this time are mostly from animated TV shows, meaning they're a little more simplistic. And I picked these shows because I either grew up watching them or they're huge inspirations to me today. But starting off, we'll have my style. A little bit about Tom. I have had him as a character for a good while, but he's still being figured out. He's generally a typical grouchy teen who has a lack of interests, so he kind of just mopes about all the time. And another struggle of his is that he doesn't actually try to find any interests. So with the story idea that I have, he'd get thrust into this world where he's forced to explore his surroundings and try new things, and eventually it helps make him become a better person. So with my style, I often use a dark brown instead of a black for the line art. It just softens things up a little bit, and I also try and use stronger shapes, particularly with the body silhouette overall, hence the double bubble puffy jacket. Sometimes in the rest of the styles I'll have this double puff, but occasionally I'll have to change it to a normal puffy jacket to better suit the styles of the show. So there you go. I figured out he was leaning way too much until the very end, so I fixed that literally as the last thing I did. He's a lanky guy. Anyway, Steven Universe. So these are the images I used as my main reference for Steven Universe. It's a show I've watched since the beginning, and I used to absolutely love the show, although more recently I think it's become a little tired, but that's besides the point. Here I was focusing mostly on, again, the lankier figures, because Tom is this long-legged, skinny guy, and so people like Jamie and Pearl were big inspirations, and especially Lars. I used the typical eye shape, and because my characters don't have lips, they're just lines for mouths, I didn't give him the classic puffy lip that a lot of the Steven Universe characters have. Actually, originally, you can see I had an open mouth with the bumpy teeth style, but I don't even remember why, but I just decided to change it later. I think it's because overall the pose looked awkward. And then towards the end, I added a slightly pinkish filter so that there's a rosier tint to the art, and that's because of the very pink Steven Universe style. So, there you have it. There's Steven Universe Tom. And now moving on to The Simpsons. I don't really watch The Simpsons, but I picked out these images as my reference because they are teenagers. Tom's a teenager. There's so many characters in The Simpsons that honestly I could have picked any photo, but I went with this. So what you'll see in a second is that I started out with this pose. I finished the whole thing, but it looks so awkward. So I changed it after the initial recording. I forgot to record the change, but never mind. You'll still see a little bit of it. So here I have a more normal looking puffy jacket. And then I completely forgot that you have to have fewer fingers. I think at some point in this I had 5 regular fingers, but no, Simpsons only have 4. And with the line art, I used the calligraphy monoline, I think it's called, which has a consistent thickness throughout. It's something I'm not very used to. I like tapered edges, but actually it gave quite a nice clean look. There you go, you can see the change. Now he looks like his typical moody self, typical Tom. He's got slightly thicker legs in this style than in my style. Arthur. I have a strange association with this show because when I was little, it would be on the TV right as I had to leave for school. So I never actually really loved the show because I never ever watched a full episode. I would start watching and then I'd never find out the conclusion because I had to leave. It's a great show otherwise, and I think I should, try and get back to watching it. With the line art, I made a mistake. I noticed later and I fixed it, and it's that the gaps were too frequent, so I sorted that out after recording. And I also changed the face shape a little bit. as you can see, I have made Tom a cat, Tomcat, haha. And it's also because I don't think there's many other cats in the show. Honestly, it's really hard to tell what the animals are supposed to be anyway, so I just gave him pointy ears and went with it. I also aged him down a little, considering the main characters are mostly 8 years old. And I wanted him to not be a teenage figure for this because they seem to be a little more developed and mean, I feel like, in the show. And he's not mean, he's just boring. Legend of Zelda. I love The Legend of Zelda. I don't know much about it because I just played the Nintendo games when I was little, but I was a pro at Spirit Tracks. My sister and I would play it together, and so that's why toon-style Legend of Zelda is my favourite. I actually really struggled with this one because, well, first of all, I couldn't figure out the pose, and secondly, his stumpy legs were really annoying to draw because Tom is long-legged, and with this style I couldn't show off that. The other thing that I would change in post, looking back on it now, is that the eyes are inaccurate. I used the same eye style as Zelda and Link, but they're the only two characters in the universe, I think, that have eyes like that. And as Tom wouldn't be a main character, I think I should have given him something that would match his big red nose that most of the adult characters have. Oh well, I'll change that for next time. The other thing I added in post is he looks too modern in his puffy coat just by itself. So as you can see here, I added some typical Zelda patterning and buttons just to help it fit with the theme. Adventure Time! I adore Adventure Time, and these three characters are what I based my Tom off of. I was able to use my typical double bubble puffy coat in Adventure Time style, which I'm really happy about because it's one of my favourite aspects of Tom, and I think he would be interesting in this world because I don't think he would be a non-human. I think he'd be a human, but possibly one that woke up a million years later or however long it's been since the Great Mushroom War. And so he is generally very confused about his surroundings, and he is kind of like a lone traveller. I feel like he'd get on well with Finn, but would also be a bit tired of his antics. Eventually they'd become good friends, though, once they start to understand each other a little more. A thing I changed up is his hair. I started out as giving it spikes, but I think it looked too detailed for the Adventure Time style, so I made it more similar to my style, actually. And here you have a wild Adventure Time Tom, looking surprised at something. Gorillas! Oh god, my throat. Yeah, I'm ill. Gorillas. One of my greatest inspirations. I am in love with this band and Jamie Hewlett's artwork. I went with a blend between a Phase 4 and Phase 5 art style. So the art styles that were prominent when I discovered Gorillaz in 2017. I made a mistake though, and you can see because this time-lapse is double the length, and that is I made it far too detailed. With all the other drawings, I kept them as if they were in their animated styles, but with this one, I accidentally blended the animation style of Gorillaz with the illustration style of Jamie Hewlett. I really enjoyed doing the line art. The line art was fine. I was very proud of the hands, actually, because hands aren't my strong suit, especially not Gorillaz style, but they worked out quite well. But the thing I really struggled with was the colouring, as we'll get to in a minute. The puffy jacket, I tried to make it more realistic, but I didn't really know what texture I was going for, and the colours were a bit too high contrast for Jamie's style, and I think it just ended up looking too complicated. I've halved the speed of this one because I don't want you guys to get too nauseous. Yeah, I know, I need to stop zooming in so much when I draw, but I figured that out this time and I'll try and get better as I go along. But, yeah, I just didn't think too much with this one. I think the other thing is Tom's face. I spent a long time on that because I didn't know what nose to give him. I didn't want to give him a Murdoch or Ace like triangle-y, sticky outy nose, even though that's what Tom normally has, because I felt like I wanted to give him the typical sort of flat, weird rectangle triangle blend gorilla's nose, but I just extended the bridge a little more instead so that it looked larger than usual. As for the teeth, I love the typical wonky teeth, but I don't know if that's a smile that Tom would normally have. Oh well. I do like the pose though. I think this is my favourite pose. The Fairly Odd Parents. So I picked this style and I looked at the parent, Vicky, and the teacher, or a parent, I can't remember whose parent that is, as my inspiration because of the long legs and because he's not a fairy. I can't imagine Tom ever being a fairy. He is more of just a typical villager, maybe someone who goes to the school or is a student helper or something. Anyway, I picked this style even though I didn't watch this show a whole bunch, just because it's so iconic and so unique, and I think it was one of the most fun to draw. I was listening to PewDiePie's Minecraft playthrough whilst I did this, so I'll always have that association now. I don't know why I picked this pose specifically, but I think overall with the styles I was trying to demonstrate different emotions of Tom, because he's not the most pleasant guy on the planet. He's just a bit meh, and this is him being a little miffed at something or other. I fixed the forehead because I realised that they don't really have big foreheads in Fairly Odd Parents, but there you go. There's my very angular, very graphic looking Tom, and I adore the way he looks in this style. Gravity Falls. So, this is my favourite show, I think, to this day and for the rest of eternity, mainly because it's what inspired me to pursue animation and apply to Cal Arts. Both Jamie Hewlett and Alex Hirsch are my greatest inspirations, and I will be forever appreciative of their work. So, with this style, I looked to the teenagers, in particular Robbie and Wendy, when designing Tom. Originally, I was considering aging him down to be more like Mabel and Dipper, and I did a test drawing on paper where he looked super cute, just like Mabel and Dipper, but I figured that that's not how he would fit into this universe. Instead, I imagined him to be another member of that teenager gang, and he thinks he's so cool, and he's like, yeah, look at me. I changed the face from being a slightly goofy, awkward, smiley guy to this I'm too cool for you, because I feel like on the inside is how I originally drew him, but on the outside he tries to create this facade of, yeah, I'm too cool for you. There you have Gravity Falls. I really enjoyed this style, though for some reason it took quite a long time, but nowhere near as long as that Gorillaz one. The Gorillaz one took like 2 hours. And last but not least, we have Charlie and Lola. Charlie and Lola was one of my favourite kids shows growing up, and it's one of the few young children's shows that I would watch to this day. I think it's so funny and such a genius observation of little children and how they behave. Lauren Child is a genius to me, both in her art and her writing, and this style is so innocent and friendly, and it actually took a lot for me to not be perfect, because I like having everything being clean and balanced, and I had to just force myself to just draw a thing in one go and not worry about if it's symmetrical or not. I had to age down Tom to be similar to Charlie and Lola's age, so between, I think it's 4 and 10, something like that. I imagine him to be 8 years old again, and that's because I don't think there's any teenagers in the show, and the parents are never shown beyond the feet, I think, or it's just their voices, something like that. And the other thing I love is the paper cutout style. I do have that in some of my illustrative work, and I think I'd like to have it more in my animation work too. So there you have it, Tom in 10 different art styles. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I know I certainly enjoyed making it. It was really fun exploring what ways of drawing I'm capable of and seeing my character come to life in some of my favourite cartoon universes. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you'd like to see more videos like this in future, then consider subscribing. Even better, hit the notification bell for updates. I create art-related videos including advice, speed paints, animations occasionally, and sketchbook tours. Why not also follow my Instagrams at anya.arts and mepity. Anya Arts is for polished work, whilst mepity is more for sketches and more random things. Everything is linked down below. If you're a true legend, you could also support me on Patreon. It's a fantastic way to show your support whilst directly influencing my content. Your money will go towards improving my video quality and helping pay for my college tuition. For just $2 a month, patrons get exclusive early access to my videos, occasional extra content, prioritised discussion with me, and more. $20 patrons get a free little sketch and half price off commissions whenever they're open. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Bye!